Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
And let's do a little meditation first about these questions. So just come on into the island of your body, into this moment. Take a breath. Just gather all your energies back into you, into now. Take another breath. And know that everything you have experienced today is with you still. And we're asking to just put that in a soft place so that we can all be present to this last beautiful part of our day together. So one more breath in. And feel the presence of the Kryon entourage in the room as it has been potentiating throughout these past 2 days. All that has gone on for you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And just bring that into a place where it can just be with you in a soft place, a place that you can bless, and a place where you can give gratitude. And continue to bring your awareness closer and closer into this present moment. And know that whatever questions are asked tonight are the perfect questions. And they will speak to you. So I invite you to allow for the possibility of that perfection. And so it is.
The entourage which has been will remain. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. And so those we invited in last night are still here. And they've been here all day. And some of you have felt them when you came into the room, and others of you have felt them as you listened to the information given this day. Although the day was about teaching, there are some things that were taught that would create an aha experience in some of you. And that is enhanced by those who we invited into the room. There have been questions already, answering in advance, even some that are in the bag, about where does your help come from? And in a linear way, you wish to visualize the God in the sky as the authority figure, the one who helps you as you are poised, asking with your hand out. And I'm going to tell you, it is time to take responsibility for good things in your life. And so therefore, when there are healings, you did it. And therefore, if there are things today that would ring true to your heart that you wanted to hear, epiphanies perhaps, that is to say, awarenesses, validations, and you want to know where they came from, I'll tell you. You've got a support group around you. You've got the ancestors standing, holding hands, looking at you. You're a piece of the creative source. Do I really have to tell you where it came from? It is a confluence of spiritual maturity and intelligence that is responsible for the human being's awakening into the next level. And I've just answered a question, another one in the bag. But you've got to know this, even in advance of the questions. Now, not all of the questions will be answered. I know that too. At least not to your satisfaction. And I know that. One of the reasons we do not do this more often is because the collection of consciousness that would ask the questions does not normally suit the energy of the channeler. And so we select very, very special old soul groupings in order to do this. And then I've told my partner to make sure that others will hear the answers. For it is the old soul in the room who has the ability and the maturity to put together certain kinds of questions that will trigger what the message is of the day that needs to be heard from those who are listening perhaps at another time. And that is the way of it. The first question, please.
Could you please speak about multidimensionality? I have heard that there are 11 versions of ourselves plus our higher self. From your perspective, is this so? Are some of the versions actually our guides, as mentioned yesterday in the second grouping of our consciousness?
The answer will be non-linear. The question is linear. And I will try to, again, create an answer which will help you to discern what is really taking place. Do not count the versions. Do not identify the dimensions. And as I said yesterday, it is in a soup, and the meal has been cooked, and the seasoning is in it. Therefore, multidimensionality is the name we would give to the human soul, which is reflected within the corporeal body, for there are multidimensional aspects even of your DNA. So there is information being broadcast, you might say, from the multidimensional soup of what you call your Merkaba all the time. Your guides are part of it. The higher self is part of it. That which is in your DNA instructions, which are quantum, are part of it. And those who are on the other side, who have your soul ID, are part of it. But you want to know which part is which. What color are they? What do they look like? What are their names? Dear human being, this is so understandable. This is how you're trained. All of you. And part of the evolvement of the human species at this point in time is to get out of the training. To drop the traditions that have been taught to you, even in the New Age, for so long, and start to see an amalgamatum, a confluence, a putting together of the parts in a way that you have never ever seen before. If you start seeing yourself as a whole, as an entirety, and stop trying to pull apart or identify the pieces and the parts of the multidimensional human being, you start to relax. It is as it is. I am that I am. And you never heard Spirit give instructions to say, I am that I am, and these are the parts. It doesn't work that way. And the intellectual who is spiritual wishes to know. It is not knowable. For the soup is the soup. And it's all together. The guides are part of the corporeal human being. Those on the other side of the veil are part of your higher self. The energies in the crystalline grid are a reflection of the actions of you. Your higher self is there as well as in the magnetic grid. You're everywhere. And on purpose. The question is honored. But it indeed shows that you still wish to count the parts. Not today. Next.
Would you please speak about why the planet was populated by 5 to 7 to 9 centered beings as per human design, and how this relates to advanced Lemurians?
You should know this, dear ones. Lemurians were not the end-all of humanity. They were beginning human beings. Human beings took millions of years to develop to a point at which you were ready to be seated by the Pleiadians. And the number of centers that you had at that point, 5, was about change. And you have to look at the numerology. So Lemurians were 5-centered. This did not stop them from receiving the information about enlightenment. It did not stop them from having a culture where they developed things like the Temple of Rejuvenation, where they were given some physics by the seed parents. But it did stop them from evolving past a certain point. And this was recognized and it was known. It's the beginning of human evolvement spiritually. And so the Lemurians and the civilization of Lemuria is not something to look back at and say, I wish we were there today. You have evolved spiritually from that point. Lemuria was precious because there was no war. Lemuria was precious because it was the melting pot of the beginning spiritual knowledge of humanity. Lemuria was special, for they had developed some longevity rejuvenation techniques using magnetics and supercooling that was available to them at 33,000 feet. Now you know why the mountain came up. But still, you have higher technology today. You can develop these things far easier than they did. So respect them for their beginnings and the roots. The natural evolvement into the centers of the human being is because humans were ready for it. And we said this last night, that as human beings evolve and are ready for certain kinds of attributes, they are given when you're ready. Going to 7, going to 9, maybe even eventually the 12-centered human being. This is human evolvement, and it centers in the spiritual. You got to see all day long the explanation of who you are. There has never been a more elegant system designed yet to help you work with each other than this which you were taught today. And it's based around more centers than the Lemurians had. There'll come a day when they'll go out to 12. And you can imagine the complexity then, because you have to add the quantum attribute. There will be a wheel outside of the wheel. And this is the way it works in evolution, in spiritual things as well as biological things as well as consciousness. So you are still simply seeing the natural progression of a race that has decided to move forward into a higher integrity of life. Eventually, as I've told you, this will reflect itself with higher thinking in government, higher thinking in business, and a collection of countries that would never, ever think of going to war. For they would see their survival as part of the galaxy instead of a simple blue earth that you cannot escape from. There is more coming than you know. And what is coming will increase your awareness of yourselves, will put the earth together in a different consciousness, and you will not be fearful of it. What is coming is benevolent. What is coming is beautiful. And these things are hard for you to imagine. But I can speak of them openly now, whereas before 2012, it would sound silly. Because there was simply too much darkness around this shift that you have passed. And you will see the channeling is starting to change. It's opening up to new vistas. It's telling you things to look forward to that are grander than ever before. And there are so many questions in the room. Thank you, Kryon. This sounds so good. It's hard to believe when we look at the news. Will we be alive to see it? Oh, of course you will. You may look a little different. Old soul, you're coming back. You're not going to miss this. You're not going to miss this. This is the finale. You've struggled for thousands of years to get to this point. I know you say you're tired. But that's the human mind. Don't you hear the celebration? Will you allow yourself for a moment to relax into the arms of God and be hugged and celebrated for what you've done? You're not going to miss the rest of this journey. You're just not. And so I will see you on my side of the veil for a moment and a half. And you'll come back. You can hardly wait to awaken with knowledge that you've earned. To awaken with instincts that will allow you to remember how to read. Remember who you are. And to keep the light going.
The next question. There have been past advanced civilization on Earth. What consciousness attributed to their demise?
It depends on how you define advanced. There has never been a higher consciousness than the one in the room on the planet. Did you know that? Advanced civilizations can be advanced in many ways. Advanced in their ideas, advanced in the technology, perhaps, and there have been, but not in the advancement of awakening to what is inside, dear ones. And what has been their demise almost exclusively has been that they did not advance the spiritualness with the rest of the consciousness. And there comes a time when they hit a wall, and without a high degree of consciousness and awakening, they tend to destroy one another. And this is where you were going. Are you aware of that? Think of the prophecies of when you were born. My partner teaches this every time he stands on a stage. Think of the prophecy. And the prophecy said you weren't going to make it. And you had the weapons that would assure you would not make it. And they were all pointed at each other when the prophecies were given. Is it any wonder we would say to you, there have been others that faced the same thing? An elevated technology without elevated spiritual thought creates the demise of a civilization. And that is the answer. You have to have them together. And the one that should be on top, always, if you have to have a hierarchy, is the one that searches for the creative source. And that one, my dear human beings, will be the catalyst for all the others. And for the first time in human history, as predicted by the ancients, the earth starts to balance itself. And humanity starts to see in its wisdom a way of unifying itself instead of separating itself. And human nature itself will start to shift. Human nature itself. And you will see it in the children first, for they will have ideals that you will wonder where they came from. Integrity. You will wonder where it came from. And it will be the opposite of what you were taught is human nature or what you experienced before when you were a child as human nature. Where a child does not have to be taught that stealing is wrong. It is intuitive. Where a child knows about God because it's intuitive. Where a child knows perhaps, even perhaps, that they've lived before because it's intuitive. This is an elevated consciousness. And with that will come the technology. And with that will come the communication with the galaxy. And with that will come the beginning of an ascended planet. Now I can't go to the next question before I tell you this comes with a price. And the price is patience. For humanity will not suddenly awaken. There will be times when it seems to go backwards, where you stand there and you're the only one saying, I see the light. And everyone around you is saying, well, you're a fool, because there is no light. And I'll tell you that this is the way an evolving planet has always worked, in waves. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 5 steps forward, a half a step back. And it's a progression that you can see. But in the process of the progression, there is time that must pass. And we've called this before the planting of the seeds. You've got 18 years to simply plant the seeds. I didn't say anything about them growing. This happens through generations. Can you celebrate something quantum with me? Can you go to a time? This is not morbid, dear ones. This is beautiful. Go to a time when you don't have your body. The one that you have right now, the only one you think you have right now, and you're not in it. You're in another one. And you've come back. Don't make up your mind what it looks like, or who you are. I'm just saying, go there with me. And you stand there looking at an earth that is so different from this one. And because you are now living longer, you can see actually the evolving spirit of humanity. You can look around and you can see that there is no war. There are still groups that don't agree with each other. That's going to be forever. You understand that, don't you? That's free choice. But no one's killing each other for it. And you look around and you see groups of belief systems that are all unique. And they have grown out of the belief systems that you have today, except something has happened. They all respect one trunk of the tree as the creative source. And they worship differently. And they may have doctrine. And some of them are beginners and some of them are not. And they all have their way of honoring the creative source. And none of them point to the other and say they're wrong. For they all acknowledge that at the core they have come from the same place. The same love is in all of them. They have their specifics. And they look backwards and they say there was a day when we killed each other because we didn't agree. How quaint, how trite, how barbaric. And what I have just painted for you is the potential we see with you. Alive, healthy, with longevity due to awareness, consciousness, and technology, looking at the planet in the future. To us, it's already there. To you, old soul, you've just simply passed the marker and beginning to plant the seeds. But you're going to be there. You wonder why we love you the way we do. You wonder why the creative source has compassion pouring out of the center. You wonder why we want to take your hand to make you feel better. You wonder why we're asking you to stop counting guides. And instead, count on us. Next question.
How can we best mine our Akash to discover and develop our life's purpose?
Mining the Akash is the concept of the future. My partner has been in the shower many times with me. And his questions are exactly like yours. Oh, he's managed to pull out a few things and change himself. He needed to in order to do what he's doing. But he doesn't know how he did it. Not really. He didn't follow a process, you see. Not really. You know what he did? He stood there and said, God, tell me what it is I need to know. And in that process, if you want to call it that, which he thinks is a process, he was guided to certain aspects and did them. He still doesn't know what he did. He still doesn't know how it happened. He's just thankful it did. And in the shower, he says, please give me what to say. In the shower, he says to me, Kryon, I cannot stay on a stage and talk about mining the Akash and say, and good luck. It's coming. So for now, let me say this, and this is very honest between us, dear human being. You are on the cusp of something so advanced. When you're talking about using the human consciousness to dig into the Akashic record of who you've been and pull out the attributes that you need for today. And so instead of looking for how, I want you to take the hand that is outstretched to you from your higher self and say, guide me through this step by step for me. What do I do next? And then trust intuitive thought. For there will come instructions. For my partner, it was about his diet, which then became his paradigm of metabolism. His intuition said, stop eating this and that and that. And he did. And from that, it became, now, do you want it anymore? And the answer was no. And his body said, congratulations, we are now somebody else. You earned it. But you had to start in 3D and in a linear way in order to get to the place where it became a reality instead of a diet. In the case of the other things that he has accomplished, he has done it through steps that were given to him through his intuition, one at a time. Because he simply said, tell me what it is I need to know. That's the very best question you can ask of your innate. And by the way, that's who to ask. Ask yourself. Your innate is the intelligent, multidimensional part of your body that knows all about the corporeal confluence of energy between 3D and multi-D. It's smart. It knows more than your human consciousness knows. And it is the one who will then give you the intuition to accomplish the things that you wish to do regarding mining the Akash. So I just gave you some information that even my partner didn't get. He thinks it was coming from us. It isn't. You earned it. You're carrying it around with you. So get on with it. You can do it for yourself, with yourself, if you can cross the bridge to the innate body. And the way my partner did it, and the way we have given in parable after parable, is to sit and say, dear God, dear body, dear innate, because you're all together, tell me what it is I need to know. That's the fast track. And yet it's the one that is the least popular. It requires you to do things that you haven't done before. Talk to yourselves. Understand that your innate, that is your intelligent body, is part of your consciousness and part of you, but the one that you cannot necessarily get to automatically. Isn't it interesting that the human being will sit and meditate for hours trying to get in touch with their higher self so that they can cross the bridge to the other side of the veil and never once talk to innate? Did you ever think about that? I think it's time you started to understand that this is a full body experience. And that's how you do it. And many humans are not ready for this. And so I tell my partner in the shower, not yet, but soon.
When Earth was first seeded with the 5 races of humankind, what was the first language? And was it one language shared by all, or did each of the 5 have their own language?
There were a lot more than 5. It was more like 26. And the languages were different because human beings couldn't travel very much. And for the same reasons that language began today, and you know how they began in a central place like you call Europe, that is so small with so many languages, is the same reason. When you take humanity and you isolate them into small groups over hundreds of years, if not thousands, and there are so few of them, they never meet each other, they're going to have separate languages. As far as the first language, after the seeding, well, you'll have to ask a Pleiadian. Where do you think they got it? I want you to remember when the seeding took place. Sentient human beings looking just like you, not cavemen. Probably already had communication, if you think about it. But after the seeding, many things happened. Sociologists and anthropologists will point to it if you ask them. And they will say, don't look back more than 100,000 years to find ones like you, because they recognize something happened. 26 became 5. More than that, you talk about races. The 26 were not races, they were different kinds of human beings. You do understand this, don't you, when you go to the zoo and you see how many varieties there are of mammal? How many deers are there? How many monkeys are there? You realize that evolution, natural evolution, creates variety for survival. You know that. And now you look around the planet and what do you see? One kind of human being. Only one. Different kinds, different races, within the one. But the variety is gone. Now that is counterintuitive to all evolutionary processes that you've ever studied. And the Pleiadians were responsible. And it took a very long time. Don't take this wrong, but that was the plan. And it was the plan because you see how you treat each other now. Can you imagine how you would treat each other if there were all kinds of human beings? Some with tails, some with not tails, some big ones, some small ones. You would wipe each other out. So there had to be one kind. Now that's beautiful, dear ones. Now there'll be those who will listen to this and roll their eyes and say, well, it's awful what those Pleiadians did. This is what happened to them when they were seated. Did you know that? You have to ask an Arcturian about that. The grandparents of the Pleiadians. I didn't say the parents, for there was one in between them. This is a galactic evolution of planets in ascension. There is a plan. It is beautiful. You are the only planet of free choice at the moment. And so the question is honored, but the answer is far larger than the question ever thought it would be. It's a beautiful plan. And we continue to tell you that it's not going to be that long. It won't be that long before you start to understand that there are others in this galaxy besides yourself. And it will be intelligent. And you're going to have to rethink God because of it.
And this will be the last question. What can we do to accelerate the growth of humanity?
That's a wonderful last question. And by growth, of course, you mean spiritual. Dear ones, I want you to love each other more than you do now. I want you to be able to love the ones that are giving you a bad time. You know who I'm talking about. I want you to fall in love with the face in the mirror. This changes your countenance. It starts to generate what we would call the metaphor of light on the planet. This is the accelerator. The more you can see God in yourself and act accordingly and fall in love with the attributes of the creative source that is always in you and always has been, the more you can balance yourself, the greater the accelerator to the human race. It's not going to take that many to affect it. And the reason is, again, because balance is infectious. Everyone wants to be balanced. Everyone wants to be around balance. Nobody wants to walk around frustrated and angry and worried. Not really. Not really. And so when you are the catalyst and the accelerator, by showing the God in you, you'll gather a crowd just walking out of your house. I guarantee it. And the people in the shops will know you and remember you. And wherever you will go to buy groceries, they'll remember your name and stop you. And you'll know that you're different. And you'll be peaceful in that. They may even want to accompany you, go to lunch with you. One human at a time, which becomes exponential in an accelerated planet of light. Now, how do I know this? And I'll tell you, because you are not the first. I'll tell you something else. And you have to know this, dear human beings. You think you signed on as a human? That's just for Earth. That's just for Earth. What if I've told you you've done this before? This ought to be ringing in your cells. Something is different. I remember this. I remember this. I'm shivering because I remember this. I'm waking up at 3:30. Something's going on. I've been through this before. What is it that I'm feeling? And I'll tell you. Some of you have been on other ascended planets, including the planet of the Pleiadian. and the ones before that, because there is a select group of old souls who are really old. This is what you do. Galactic light workers, you are. And you'll know this. There'll come a day when the revelation of where you've been and what you've done is far grander than anything you ever thought. And yet you'll go from this place, get in your car, look in the mirror, and you won't believe any of it. God bless the human being for their linearity, but God is still inside. And so I give you this information for those who can accept it and work with it, knowing full well it may take another lifetime or 2 or 3 before you know I'm right. But it's going to be you, for this is what you do. 23 years ago, I came to my partner in some very simple channeling, and I said, there will be no Armageddon. For the potentials of crossing the marker are far grander than war. It was the beginning of the precession of the equinoxes. The first of the 2 18-year windows, which would center on December 21st. And there was many awakenings and other channelers that came along at the same time. Check it out. And they carried the same message, for this is not a Kryon message. This is a galactic message. All eyes were on you. You just didn't pull it out. You didn't just go through the marker. You did what you never could do before. And the old souls that are here, inside of you, there is spiritual truth and knowledge that knows I am absolutely right. Something is happening. Here are your instructions, dear human being, dear galactic light worker. Remember the last time this happened. Expect the darker energies of this planet to flail and fight back, because they now know they are losing. And because they're losing, they're going to throw it all at you. But you've got an increased light. I'm sorry to be so simple. I'm sorry if it sounds like a bedtime story, but that's all I've got that is succinct enough so that you'll understand what's coming. You're going to win. We saw it 23 years ago. That hasn't changed. But in the process, there's going to be a few times where you'll question it. And when you do, I want you just to sit and say, I am that I am. God, tell me what it is I need to know. And the spark inside will respond. And all will be well. And so it is.
And so it is. Good day to you. We are here. Some of you know us, some of you do not. We are Aronda. And we bring with us an entire council of light just to reflect your light. You see, dearest ones, you are the reason we came here from the 17th dimension. We have many who ask about us, many who don't understand, and our message is always allow the new energy within you to be present. We are an activator. of your Akash, dearest. We work deeply in your emotional body, and we honor you for your work, your plurk, as we like to say, because we believe everything should be play plus work, which equals plurk. You see, beings of light, your work, your plurk, if you think of it as work, it's just not quite enough. It's just not quite the energy of it. That this is the play of the dolphins, beings. This is the play of the whales. This is the play of your soul, who has decided to come back here, to arrive. Our vessel Marilyn has met and sat with their Guru Deva. He recognized her as the Lemurian that she is. He recognized her and brought us through with that energy. You see, dearest, you never know quite where the next moment is going to happen. You never know quite when the next activity is going to ignite within your soul. So we are playing in your heart chakras. We are acknowledging, as our dear divine Kalei acknowledges, the magnificence that is within you. Yet we ask you to wonder why you think of yourself as so small sometimes. You are not. You are who you are back here to assist in the shift of this planet. We are here to remind you of who you are. That brilliance, that light, that eminence of joy, of love. We are here to hold you always in that heart of unconditional love that only the great masters can share with you. You see, dearest, we see into your soul. And even if we just said nothing, the activation of your Akash would still be expanded. From your soul to theirs. From our soul to yours, from your soul to ours. It's a soul-to-soul connection. Huh? You see, with that energy, all is possible. With that vibration and that frequency, all is possible as the mountains rise up from the earth to come again as Lemuria rises. You see, you are a part of that earth. The message for our vessel Marilyn yesterday from Pele was never let anyone else define you. And of course, being our vessel Marilyn, she argued, she said, can't you move that to the positive? Always define yourself. And Pele spoke to her heart just as she spoke to yours. And you were gifted with a part of her energy to bring into your home that is rare. You see, you are dropping your energy everywhere around this planet. Everywhere where the magnificence of the notes are playing with the DNA in your body. That vibration shifts your consciousness to be you. And we charge you with being the love that you are. We acknowledge you with living that love, to know that there could be more, there could be less, but it is all in its divine perfection. You got the call to be here. The universe tapped on your shoulder, tapped on your aura to bring that activation here. And for some, it was such a huge activation that you sort of lost your balance once you arrived and had to anchor it again in the soul of your universal wisdom. With that energy, we want you to breathe into the soul of your universal Akash. It is not so important about who you were or what you did or how many blah blah blahs that you ever had. We don't care. The important thing is that you acknowledge that remembrance of your magnificence. That you acknowledge that remembrance of the love that is interactive within you. That you remember who you are and then be who you are now. As we work with as we clerk with our selenite swords of light to activate all that is within you, you set the intention to remove whatever you would like to integrate so it is no longer in charge, and activate all that is within you that is destined to be activated for your next step, for your next connection, for your next interaction, for your next sweetheart, for your next partner, for your next love, for yourself. That is who you are. That is what we are here to do, to say, to be, to have, and to hold in your emotional body. Because we believe that is where the change happens first, just as in the center of the earth. That change bubbles forth from the core. And we are going to be bubbling up just for you. So we honor that. We hold that energy. And we bring our selenite swords of light, although airport security calls them wands, to activate you and your Akash and whatever is in your highest good to be activated.
Beloved ones, we greet thee. 'Tis Alcazar. Listen to these sounds. These sounds were created by this master here. For the Stargate. We invite you all to close the eyes. For as we all talk to you, we are sharing far more than words, than information. There is an energy transmission coming through these four on the stage. Relax and allow. You are all totally unique. And each one of you will be touched in your own unique way by these energies and by these words. You have been drawn here to this gathering for different reasons. Many remember or feel that you have been here in ancient times, in the times of Lemuria. What is important is the now. What is important is how you allow your own divinity, your own sacredness to be lived in your daily life. You have heard how the Pleiadians prepared this beautiful earth for you. You have heard Kryon say that you were there watching the process even as the earth herself was born. So who are you? You are not this body that you are seated in right now. Who are you? Beloveds, you are all, without exception, extraterrestrials. You have lived elsewhere before you came to this earth. This is a beautiful experiment of the evolution of this very universe. We have said many times, humanity is on the leading edge of creation. Hard for the mind to accept at first if you look at your world right now. But if you look at those who are gathered here with you and those like yourselves in the hundreds of thousands around the world who are opening to the vastness of your potential, you can begin to feel transformation is already happening within self and within humanity. You have heard from Kryon that the darkness is struggling to survive, but will not. And this is something we all are beginning to recognize. It is about living your truth in the moment, being your true self as you move around in your daily life. We introduce to you the Lemurian masters, and we would like right now for each one of you just to invite them once more to come and join this gathering. So please, just asking inside for the presence of the Lemurian masters. And just allow for the possibility that simply by your asking, they respond. When they joined you 2 days ago, they sent a transmission to each one of you, a unique transmission just for you. They are now going to bring another energetic into this room. Some of you may feel it in a few moments. It is going to start right now. And as before, almost imperceptible in the beginning. This transmission is to bring you support, courage to live that which you know, to allow that inner knowing to come forth in the appropriate moments, the courage to live your truth in a respectful, honoring way of all those around you, whenever and wherever you are. You are vast beings. You are slowly beginning to grasp this. You have lived elsewhere before you came to this earth. You have always been hard for the human mind initially to accept. But as you connect more and more to your higher dimensional DNA, your Akash, feelings, memories start to return. Beloved ones, it is time to know who you truly are. Humanity, when you arrived here, came into frequencies of beauty and joy, and through the generations moved into the darkness of conflict, negativity, hard to understand, but it was meant to be. And now, after this turmoil, after these trials, you are reawakening. You here gathered and those hearing these words through recordings are on the leading edge of awakening. Know this. So many have lived very difficult lives. Why? Because, beloveds, when you came into this lifetime, you agreed to have a struggle, to be repressed in different ways, to experience difficulties, because you knew as an advanced soul you could live through these struggles, these difficulties, these abuses. And then as your awareness and understanding grew, you could let them go. Their influence would dissolve, disappear from your life. And as you became free of those things in the past, you would be creating more light, more love, more understanding for yourself. And then simply by your connection to the morphic field of humanity, you will be radiating this understanding, transforming one dark line through your lineage, dissolving it into light and understanding, helping others, making transformation easier for those who follow behind you. Beloved ones, you are greatly honored for the struggle, the strife, not just in this lifetime, but allow it to complete in this lifetime. No need to carry the pain any further than now. As you know, there are many, many here in this gathering unseen who love you greatly. There are the guides from all kinds of realms who are here with you right now, who love you and are available in this moment to assist you dissolve some of the final attachments to the pains and limitations from the past. If you would like assistance in this, in becoming free of limitations known and maybe still unknown, just say inside, yes, I am ready. I am ready to receive that assistance. And relax. And feel a gentle, loving energy coming to you. Don't expect a tidal wave. Just feel a subtle energy coming to you. Understand as you raise your consciousness, as you become more aware, there's no need for strong energies. Subtle energies are incredibly powerful, transformational. So relax and tune in to the very subtle energy that is coming to you now. For beloved ones, we are with you. It is time to be free. We will be silent just for a few moments. Just feel the subtle energies around you. You have come from around the universe to this place to create something that has never occurred before. in the whole of this universe. It is time to remember why you came. In great love and honoring, we bless thee. And we will talk to you again very soon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. You realize the information that is being given by all of these who are touching the other side of the veil. The information is starting to be personal. 2 days ago, I gave you history. We presented a channel that literally needed the Akash from the humans that were sitting next to me, pulling upon them as well as the information from the past. If the channel sounded a bit different, it was. For it was channeled from 3 places. From the Akash of those around me, and that which I have for you from the past. This is not the way of new channeling. This is the way of intuition. That as you start to expand, information that you are going to glean from what you believe is your higher self is also going to come from a collective. It's time to stop being so linear in your spirituality. My partner mentioned the culture of oneness. And from birth they learn that they are not singular, that they are connected. And all of their lives, the connection is with one another, with Gaia, with God. Oneness is a description, not of selflessness, but of self-fulfillment. When you realize that you're not alone, and you never were alone, and you never will be alone. Dear ones, I want to talk just a little more about the Star Mothers. Just a little more. And then I want to pull it to something personal for you. Lemurian children all knew who the Star Mothers were. It wasn't hard to tell. Humanity, as you know it, is quite a bit taller than it used to be. It has to come from knowledge, nutrition, evolution, numbers of things. Lemurians were not all that tall either. But the Pleiadians, well, now they are taller than you are. In their physical form, they are taller than you are. So now you can imagine how tall they seemed to the children. It was no secret who they were. Star Mothers. And when the Star Mother started teaching the 5 spokes around the great central hub, I told you 2 days ago about how this information started simply and then would expand. And I gave you the names that were memorized of the 5 spokes around the hub. Some of you have put this together, and I didn't mention it then. I wanted to wait till now. What do you think the advanced information would be? What would come after years of teaching to the children to the age of 13, where they would split in, then be taught in genders? The beginning, if you want to say, of the sisterhood. What could come after that that hadn't been taught in all those years? And this is where it gets good. Because then the teaching turned to the 6 spaces around the 5 spokes. I'm not going to go through a lineage of what the 6 are, dear ones. Someday I will. The children didn't learn their names. The children had no awareness of the spaces. The children only saw the physical, the 5. The children only saw the hub. And until the age 13, they concentrated on the 5, the circumference, the hub, the oneness, never understanding that the real teaching were the 6 spaces. Because, dear ones, here is a basic truth. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you believe is real is a tiny fraction of what is there. And in the spaces between the spokes are the truths of God, of the universe, of physics, of the human body, of compassion, of love. They started out being shown and taught that what you see is not all that is there. So many of you know this. You think you see fine with your eyes until you realize you're only seeing one wavelength. You think you're feeling everything and smelling what you can until you realize that an animal can do it 100 times better than you. There is so much that is unseen and unknown that your senses are not even tuned for. Who among you regularly can see and analyze a human Merkaba? Right now, as I speak, there is an invisible energy that is new, that is pouring from Stargate. It's invisible. There is so much in the spaces. So much. One of the spaces I'll give away, and that is the secret to health. Not to long life, because that is one of the spokes. The secret to health. And that you meet innate. Innate is invisible. Innate is the smart body. Innate is tuned to the pineal, to the higher self, to the oneness. Innate is the bridge from 3 dimensions to many. That's in the cracks, in the spaces between the spokes. And then you get to the ones that are so precious, so divine, so sacred. You start to learn about love. You all know about love, don't you? And if I could ask you, what is the main thing that you could say about love of any kind on this planet? Love between humans, the love of God, the love of you and your infant, the love of you and an animal. What is it? And you'll say, it's thick. I can feel it. And I will say, what does it look like? And you would say, well, It's invisible. But all of you know what it is. You sense it, you feel it, you count on it, you desire it, you crave it, you bathe in it. When you hug the tree, you feel the love of Gaia. Perhaps when you stand outside with your arms raised to the ocean, you feel the love of those around you, or perhaps your ancestors, and Gaia. And it's all invisible. It's one of the spaces between the spokes. So let's stay there for a moment. The biggest unseen thing that humanity has not recognized is the reason why you're here. Oh, I chuckle because it's so big and it's so grand and it hides. The love of the Creator has no bounds, cannot be measured, cannot be understood. So often it is seen as something else. Incredible love is seen as discipline somehow because that's all your brain is allowed to do. Sometimes the Creator wrongly is then attributed to the human father. It's not that way. It isn't. It's the human mother and father. You cannot genericize God. It is enormous, it is huge, and it waits on the outside of each human Merkaba. It waits to be invited in. That is the definition of free choice. If you could define the shift on this planet differently and leave out the history, the prophecies, all of the stars, what would you call it? Let me give you another definition. It's the enhancement of free choice of the human being to finally open the door to the love of God. Now, as you sit there, not the ones listening to my voice necessarily, but the ones who are on the mountaintop of Hawaii, as you sit and know of the history here and all the things around you, are you aware of a new opening? Perhaps of new energies that you really didn't know of before. Those teachers in the audience, listen. One of the hardest things for a teacher to do is to give a reading for themselves. It's almost impossible. So let me give you one. Get out of your box. You think you know what's here, and you don't. Repaint it. Give it another color. Expand it. Let it go. Now don't mishear this. You're going to use everything you know and have known as the foundation for a new building that's coming. The foundation is the core that you've learned in the old energy, and the building that you're building is going to be the ones that are in the spaces between the spokes. The invisible, the compassion, the love, the reasons, the whys. Why you're here is because of the love of God. This is the greatest love story ever told. That the Creator would put God in you and let you find it. Free choice is needed. We've told you this before. The Creator of all things, the highest of the high, is biased in love, not in logic. Therefore, sometimes it needs human beings and the intellect and free choice to steer a ship of linearity for the galaxy that couldn't necessarily be steered with a biased God of love. Think about that one. This is difficult, advanced information of why you may be here. The planet has awakened. There are so many new energies, not just enhanced one, not just more light, but new light and new energies yet to be named that are here, that are waiting, that are coming, that used to be taught right here. Now, as you sit here, all of you, can you go into a new energy that has no name? One that would not only heal the things that you came with that are inappropriate for your magnificence, but also give you the peace that you have been asking for a lifetime. This is the place where it starts. The seeds are planted here for humanity. They are planted here today for you. What seed could be planted where you would leave these mountaintops differently than you came? Seeds of newness that will start to grow, that you will feel, not only with more energy and more health, but feeling better about yourselves. Instead of what you carry now. Some of you literally exist from day to day. Let me tell you, I know who's here. Do you? I know you. It's time for you to know God better in new ways. Expand what you were taught by anyone to now include what you don't know. Here's the test of a mature light worker. Celebrate what you don't know. And you can do it. Dear God, I feel something is here, something is coming. I have no idea what it is. Thank you. Dear God, I am comfortable that I'll be shown when it's time. Thank you for your timing. Dear God, I know in the past that I pushed, and I've asked again, and then I've asked again. Let now we expand past the bubble of need to know and go in new energies that we don't know of yet, that will flow through me and create a conduit for others to see oneness through me, oneness through me. I'm going to do something I've never done before, because it's time and it's right. And I ask the forgiveness of the two on the stage as I do it. Because I'm going to tell both of them something that they cannot tell themselves. Because a human being, even a channeler, cannot read themselves. Oh, dear Pragit, you've sensed it coming. I know you have. There's something new coming. I said it. Out of Stargate pours something new, something very new, something enhanced. Alcazar is birthing another entity for you to channel that is great and loving and beautiful. And when that entity comes to both you and Julianne, it will then enhance your work greatly. You felt it. You will name it, sir. And the one next to me, oh dear Marilyn. There's a woman sitting on your lap, dear, who wants to get through to you. Recently deceased, and you know who I'm talking about. And she is so proud of you. Her eyes are open. She's beautiful, like you remember. She's on your lap. Let her in. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
The transition from the human speaking
that which is the portal which opens is now instant. And there would be those who would criticize that transition, saying it cannot be that way. For the three-dimensional human being and the multidimensional energy of that which is spirit needs more adjustment time. And they would say that that is a profound energy shift. And they'd be right. Oh, they'd be right. And so they would say the man is not fully channeling. What if the door never really closes? What if instead of opening the door, he simply says it's time to a door that's already open? And this is the premise of the new energy that you live in. What is before you that you can't figure out? There is no solution in this room that is more difficult than the beautiful consciousness of the human who has that problem. In other words, it would never be given to you if you couldn't solve it. And you know who I'm speaking to. The Creator is inside. In 3D, you tend to throw the switch. And your spirituality has always been that way. You have certain days you report to worship. You wear different things. You sing different songs. You kneel, or you don't. And then you come home and it's all different. And you're used to that switch. God is in that box. God is in that house. And I'm in mine. And that particular paradigm is over. Not only are you in 100% communication if you choose to be, but the beautiful help that is the love of God is always there with you. Always. It's not something you have to sit even and call upon anymore. It is something instead that lurks, that is to say, it is always there. The residual of it is there always. It's instant help. At every moment. And you might say, well, that sounds very good, Kryon. Well, how do we do that? How can I have that? And so again, we start a teaching that is new and different. And it is the description of what happens in the human being that actually creates that which is you. And we have given this before, but not this information. It is something similar because there are similar processes in the body that sound the same. We have in the past given you a 3 spiritual layer of what is inside you, and now we wish to do what is inside you physically that you don't know about. Oh, you do, but you've never really figured it out, and how to touch it and how to work with it and what it is. The human being is exceptionally complex spiritually. The human being is exceptionally complex physically. But we would like to break down the complexity and give you the information. You don't have to figure it out. All you have to do is know about it. And so I'll begin by giving you something that I have before. Something beautiful. A report out of history. And I want you to listen. For this is going to help you to understand what is inside you and the beauty of it. Perhaps this will even give you the proof of it. You may not relate to history, but I want you to. From the youngest to the oldest in the room, I'm looking at old souls. You wouldn't be here unless you were. the four of you didn't plan on coming, and you wouldn't have come on your own. And you know who you are. And you're an old soul too. You may not believe this. Even that which you see before you, which we call channeling, you may not believe that. It doesn't matter. It does not change your magnificence, dear ones. For I know who you are. And you may not believe in me, but I believe in you. Because I stood at the wind of birth when you decided to come into this planet, live a life that you're living. I know the old soul inside. I know the sacredness. I know the divinity. And I will tell you that the same number of angels are going to walk out with you that walk out with the most profound healer in the room. Doesn't matter what you believe. That's the love of God. Unconditional. With you forever. And there'll come a time, maybe, when the seeds we plant today will start to grow and you'll realize you're not alone and that there's more than you thought. And you might even ask for help. And when you do, it'll be you helping you. For you'll simply open the door and bring out those things which are already yours. That is the beauty of the human being. Let me take you back in time. Again, for the 9th time, we will channel about Elijah. You have to hear this yet again in this context. It is reported that Elijah is the only human being who chose his ascension path, who did not die as death would take you as a human, but instead turned into that energy which was divine and left the planet by choice. And he did. So enabled was he, and wise in the things of spirit. He knew how to do it. And the story that is told and the story that is accurate is that he had that which was, you would call the understudy, Elisha. And the understudy loved him. And this man, Elijah, was told about Elijah's ascension. And Elijah said, I'd like you there, I would like you to record it, I'd like you to speak of it, write it down. I want you to tell what it looks like. And Elisha said, Master, I will, but give me something in return. Let me have your mantle. I want to tell you what that means. Both men were aware of something you're not aware of. He was asking for Elijah's spiritual wisdom to be passed to him. How can you pass something like that that's not biological, birth-related? It's not an inheritance, is it, as you think in 3D? Here are these two masters. And the one looks at the other and says, I want what you have before you leave. I want you to grant me your mantle. That is the mantle of God that sits upon you. That is the very wisdom that allows you to ascend. I want it. I want to continue your work. And Elijah looked at him and said, it is granted. It is yours. The story really is about Elijah's ascension. But the backstory is about two masters who understood how they could transfer a beautiful energy one to another through a sacred gift. And someday we'll tell you more about that. Is it possible they knew more than you do today? The answer is yes. Now let me tell you what Elisha wrote down. Elijah walked into the field, and when it was his time, he turned into light. Quite simply, he turned into light. All the multidimensional pieces that he was became apparent, and that which was corporeal vanished, vaporized. It could not stay as it was with the divinity of the Creator. Now there are some who misread this and they say there was a light that came from the clouds, a chariot, and came and got him. That's not what Elisha wrote. Read it again. For Elijah turned into light, right there on the ground. The God in him shone like the sun. And I'll tell you a lot about what's in the human being. And he knew it. Oh, Elijah's eyes, they're only 3D eyes, couldn't pick up the multidimensional parts, the incredible size of it. The fact that the universe knew that one had left the planet. He only saw a ball of light. And then he saw something else. He saw Elijah leave the planet in a multi-dimensional arrangement that could only be metaphorized. There was no explanation for it. Have you ever had a dream so real to you about certain kinds of things, so real at the moment, and then you wake up instantly and you have to write them down or tell your sleeping partner what it was about? Wake up, I have something to tell you. You'll never believe this. Here's what happened. And you cannot tell them, because it does not compute in 3D. And I know that's happened. And it was the same with Elisha's eyes. What he was seeing does not compute in 3D. And the metaphor that he saw were 3 energies that literally took Elijah for a ride into the heavens, off of the planet. The best that Elisha could come up with was a chariot, a vehicle, with 3 white horses. That's what it became, a metaphor. It's the only thing he could get out of those lights and those changing patterns and the beauty and the glory of God. And that's what was written. A vehicle to ride in. He named it. He gave it a Hebrew word. The word to ride. Merkabah. Merkabah. It sticks today. Indeed, it should, for that's what we wish to speak of. Even higher than you think in its vibration right now on this planet in you. So we leave those 2 in the field with only a footnote. Study Elisha and look at what he got. A master who went on to do wonderful things, perhaps even that would rival that of his master, Elijah. Beautiful, wise, great. Indeed, the master had passed his mantle to Elijah. What a story. True, beautiful, recorded for you to see. Now let us return here. I would like to tell you about your body. There are 9 energies that we teach about. And they are not unique and not separate. Some of them share the same name and energy, so one of the 9 is actually 3 of the 9. In addition, we have given you 3 of them already. We give you 3 more today. There are 3 sets of 3s. Don't ponder this. It's not necessary that you itemize it. First of all, they're in a circle. It is what you would call a multi-dimensional soup. We would itemize them again, as we have in the layers of DNA, only so that you can perform examination upon them and study what is there. They do not work separate. They're not apart from one another. One may be stronger or weaker in its potential in what you see it. But they are in a soup, all 9. Today we bring you only 3. And we show you that which is a triad. Now I want you to think for a moment about the 3s. For there is something that has always been present in this. A Trinity. And you'll find it in almost every religion on the planet. There are 3. And in that which you would call of the Master Christ, you have the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. There are the three. It is intuitive that there would be three. It is even present in Islam. That which is seen spiritually, there are three of. For the three is a numerological energy of the catalyst. The catalyst, that is something that is changeable and something that will change and perhaps change things around it and not affect itself. That's the three. It is one of the most powerful numbers that you can run across. Beautiful. Significant. And we speak of it yet again. There are three parts of the human biology. The three white horses. I'm going to give them to you now. And we will start with the one which is common to all sets of three. The higher self. The human body, that is to say your biology, carries three main parts. Number one, the higher self. In the last teaching we gave you three spiritual parts. One of them was the higher self. This will tell you that if you draw this in a circle, it becomes the center. It is the anchor. It is 3 of the 9, the higher self. Now you would think the higher self would be the human soul, and you'd be partially accurate. For the soul of the human being, that which you call the soul, is divine. 100%. Belongs to you, is individual and unique, in a sense. So I give you information that is not really explainable. But it is not that different than you expected. The higher self, that part of the Creator that you are, contains everything that you are. It is the God part of you. And it's why it's the core. It is why it is the center. It is the portal. It is the portal that is open at this moment that my partner can give you this information in his voice in a linear way. My partner is not floating someplace. He's right in the chair with you. He steps aside, opens the door, and listens like you do. That is the channeling. That is the way of it. He can stop this at any time. He can start it up at any time. If he needs a biological help, if he has to drink water, if he has to cough, he stops and starts again. This is a gift of translation. And he does it through the higher self. The higher self is literally the pipeline through the soul to the other side of the veil. And it is spiritual. And you knew that. Well, let me tell you something you may not know, or thought of. You consider the soul as singular and individual, and it is not. Oh, it's unique, but it's always connected to the whole. How can you have something that is connected to the whole that is a part of something else and you be unique? And the answer is yes. I can't explain that to you in 3D. Let me give you another premise. When you pass over and come home and get your party, that which is you, that is the higher self, that soul, stripped of the body, stripped of all things except for the core, arrives intact. Beautiful it is. It is who I know as you. It does not have your human name. It is ancient. It has no beginning. It has no end. It is a piece of God. Now you can't take God apart, human being. And so when I say you're a piece of God, that's just for your own 3D mind. That's all it is. Words that you can understand. But you can't take God apart. And so what am I telling you? I'm telling you that the whole of the universal God of creation lives in your higher self. All of it. Your soul is one with everything. In an entangled state with the furthest planet and star that you cannot see with a telescope. And you're there too. Hard for you to imagine something so grand and so great. It's why Elijah turned into that which was light itself. Hard to describe who you are. But here's what you don't expect. In your 3 dimensions, the soul leaves the planet, goes back to wherever it is you think it goes to. Heaven, if you wish. Which is not a place at all. It's a dimension, or a group of them, hard to describe to a 3D creature. And there it resides, you may think, in a 3-dimensional way, until it returns. And then it comes back and it's another human being, it's born to a new set of parents, it gets another name, and you walk through life yet again, old soul. And that's pretty standard. And it's awfully 3D of you. What if I told you this? Your unique soul, a piece and a part of God that has a name we say in light, is not apart from God. And therefore, it is always intermingled with every other soul that has ever been on the earth. And when you return to that pool of souls, and you seem to reunite, when you come back to the earth, you have choices to become part of those who were. Don't misunderstand this. You're still you. You still have a soul which is coming back, which is unique, and the soul that it used to be. But if you could pattern it with an interdimensional pattern, you'd see a difference. Because when you're on the other side of the veil, depending upon what you have picked up here, you can pick up certain things there from the pool of souls and bring it with you. And in you come again. There are those walking on earth who are convinced they're a piece of the Master Muhammad. Reincarnate. There are those who are convinced they are a piece of Mother Mary. There are those who are convinced that Magdalene is in them. There are those who are convinced that the Christ himself is part of their makeup, and that's who they were. And there are many of them who think that. Oh, how singular of you. Let me tell you what's going on. All of those soul energies that you look up at and say they were a piece of God, I want part of that, are attainable and available when you leave here. You pick up a part of them and you bring it back, and that's what you feel and that's what you know. And in 3D and in a singular way, you assign the whole thing to you, not understanding that they're everywhere in an entangled state with everything else. I didn't expect you to understand it. I just want you to know it. It's beautiful. It's not singular. You're not making it up. Indeed, you are part of the master energies. Even Elijah. That's the higher self. That's one of the 3 I want to tell you about. We're talking about the human biological attributes. One of them, profoundly spiritual, the higher self. Now let us get it into 2 and 3. When you combine them, you have the human being. You may not see all 3 parts. In fact, you're not going to see. You're going to see part 2, which is human consciousness. Now, part 2, human consciousness, is very grounded. It is Gaia-like. It is of the 3 dimensions. It is of the earth. It is surrounded by the processes that make the earth, and Gaia, Gaia, including the crystalline grid. It is a 2. Human consciousness is what you know every day. I don't really have to explain it to you. It's that which you carry around, that you brought in today, that's listening to this. It is allied to your cellular structure and your body 100%. We call it consciousness, but it's more than that. It's corporeal awareness. It is you with your body, you in your body. It's you walking in and out of the room. It's you eating. All by choice. It's human consciousness. Human consciousness can change chemistry. It is constantly done. When you go into joy and you laugh, all of the chemistry is changed. When you breathe, by choice or not, all of the chemistry is changed. When you go into fear, the chemistry is changed. When you fall in love, do I have to tell you that? The chemistry is changed. Don't you love the last one? When you fall in love, you don't care if you ever eat again, do you? How's that for a suspension of survival? You don't care. You go into this mode of temporary insanity and you sigh a lot. And you just want to be with the other one, don't you? I want to tell you, I've just described the way God feels about you. Did you know that? So in love with those that are missing. Some of you connect and some of you don't. Most of the earth does not. We've got 7 billion pieces of God that don't even write home. So in love with you. Human consciousness is the part that you know in 3D. And you may assign to human consciousness all that is. Ask an intellectual. They will tell you there's nothing I cannot think about and everything I can discuss. A self-contained box of delusion. Human consciousness is limited. And here's how you know it is. There's something else going on in your body. Isn't it interesting that you're not in touch with it? Human consciousness is supposed to be all that is. You can be intelligent, you can think, you can laugh, sing, create things, tell jokes, cry, weep. Is there anything left out? You have no idea what's going on in your body. And you might say, why did God create a body in this way? I've said it before. Where you can have a disease in your body growing right now and not know it and have to go to a doctor that say you've had it for a year. And your body simply never told you. Well, there is a process. There is another intelligence just as big as human consciousness. And I'm going to tell you what it is and how it works. I'm going to give it a name. That's not the name you're supposed to use. That's just the name for the teaching today. I'll tell you why in a minute. Have you ever heard of muscle testing? It has another name, kinesiology. Interesting names you've given to these things. Why do you name processes with so many letters? Why can't you call it how? Kinesiology is the process where the body lets you know things you can't know consciously. Muscle testing will give you answers yes and no about substances that will and will not be effective in your body and allergicness. Foods, substances. What are you doing? You are getting in touch with an intelligent part of your body that has no name, that you cannot identify, but that you trust in, that knows what you don't know. Now here's something you've never tried. How would you like to ask muscle testing if you had anything wrong you don't know about? Yes or no? It'll tell you. Nobody does that, do they? Maybe you don't want to hear it. Maybe you'd rather hear it from a man in a white suit. Maybe. But there is something going on inside your body. It knows. It's called innate. If you want to define innate, it would be things which have no which have an understanding with no logic. And in your body, there is a system that is the third one. Interesting. Number 3, the catalyst. Innate. I'm going to tell you what it is. And it's described in that book, which I had my partner write along with me, which has to do with the 12 layers of DNA, because it has to do with the intelligence of DNA. Innate is the largest intelligence in your body. It is connected to everything, including human consciousness, and you are not. Innate is the DNA field. Innate is the Merkaba. Now you would say, aha, you said the only spiritual part was the higher self, and yet the Merkaba is very spiritual. Who told you that? The Merkaba is human field of innateness. That is to say, it is all-knowing of all things, but the higher self is the portal. Oh, innate has other things to do. There's a field around innate. Your DNA creates a field. And it's not just a static field. How do we describe something undescribable to you? DNA is absolutely packed with information. It is a terminal of information. That is what 90% of DNA, information. And in that field that surrounds DNA, out to 26 feet from the human being, 8 meters, is packed with information. And you might say, what is the information? Let me write it down. And I'll tell you, it's the information that needs to be there at the right time, depending upon what that field intercepts. Higher self, consciousness, innate. Innate knows everything that's going on chemically in your body. Now I'm going to tell you what else innate controls. The information in your stem cells. That is innate's job. I want to ask you some questions. Are you aware that every piece of DNA is identical? Hundreds of billions, trillions pieces of DNA, these molecules in you, absolutely unique, with your print, with your Akashic record, with your angelic name, all identical. From the tip of your head to your toe, identical. So how is it that they can make cells that are so different? The skin, the organs, all of these things. Because these identical pieces of DNA are information that talk to a very tiny percent that make the genes of the human body. The engine of the race car that makes your body. 90% is the blueprint. 3.5% the engine. Innate is smart. Innate is intelligent. And you might say, well, I don't understand any of this. Why, if that's the truth, why don't I know it? And here is the answer, because innate, like your DNA, is in a quantum state. It is multidimensional, it's not in 3D, and you can't talk to it easily. Wouldn't it be nice if you could put human consciousness together with innate? Wouldn't that be something? And now I'll tell you something. The Master called Jesus Christ had a full and complete communion set between human consciousness and innate. Total and complete meld. Because he knew how. And the portal was open to his higher self. The three came together to be one. And what did you see him do? First of all, he knew all about his body. What did you see him do? He had power over matter. Interesting. What if the information in DNA was so complete that you could have that? He did. Everything was cooking at 100%. Now, we have brought this to you before, and we've given you percentages, and we've given you things to think about. But now we're telling you there is an intelligence in your DNA. How does it work? In a quantum way that you say is chaotic. Let me give you some examples. Oh, before that, let me tell you one of its main attributes. Here you sit in the hospital. Oh, dear human beings, this is so powerful. And the times it has happened on this planet, so few. So beautiful. I want to show you what innate does. Innate is in control of your biology. Absolute control. It can do anything. It can keep you alive for 900 years. If you let it. You think those biblical times were has to be flawed. They couldn't have lived that long. Oh, yes, they did. And innate made sure of it. Total control of the human body. You're sitting in the hospital. You learn of the disease. You're going through the processes, and it starts to scare you to death. And somehow, through some magic that you don't understand and you don't know and we can't explain to you, you connect the innate just for a moment, and you have something called spontaneous remission. And the disease disappears, and the immune system comes up to the challenge and wipes it out of the body, and science looks at you and goes, how did you do that? Maybe if you get scared enough. That's not the answer. But that's innate. Just took care of it all. That's how powerful it is. There is a field around you of DNA. Let me tell you about this field. Intelligent it is. We have told you that you can activate part of your DNA. And the human being then wants to itemize it, goes to the book where there's 12 energies, and decides which one they like best to activate. You know how silly that is? You're looking up in the sky, you see a rainbow, and you say, I like purple. All the other colors go away. Purple, come on down. You can't touch it. Did you know the rainbow was in a circle? Most don't. You think it disappears into the ground, don't you? No, it doesn't. It's in a circle. So is DNA. Really? Did you know that it connects itself? You think it's a strand. It's a circle. Always was. Science knows that now. You still call it a strand. I don't know why. Innate will tell you what you need. It is smarter than you are. For innate is connected to the Akashic record. It has to be. It's a field of DNA. So you may then start a communication with that part of your body that knows more than you do, and you may say, I wish to activate that part of DNA which I need the most. Now some of you in here, you need the one that's going to heal your fear. Put you in a place where you're more peaceful. Some of you, and you know who you are, and you're right here, need the healing one. You need to be healed. You need that body to start doing something it hasn't done before, and innate can do it. And then there are those where there's nothing wrong with you at all, and you just want something better than you got. And that's what I want to talk about. Because innate can do that too. What if you'd like to stop aging? Innate is very good at that. All you have to do is connect with it. I want to give you a process I've told you about before. Are you aware that the human body reproduces itself and rejuvenates? It's built to never die. And it does. And it does because that which is rejuvenatable is not perfect. And yet it can be, and it should be, you might think, if only it worked a little better. There is a reason why you age. And the reason is the imprint that you have based upon the energy of the planet. It is why those in the past may have lived 600 and 700 years and you only get 80. Something's happened with the energy of this planet that has actually affected the blueprint of the stem cells. I just said a mouthful. Listen. Every time a cell reproduces in your body to make another one, there is a query. That is to say, there's an informational question. It's about to reproduce, pull apart, cell division. It's about ready to make another one of itself. But right before it does, right before the nucleus does that, right before, there's a question. Innate is asked, do I do it to the same blueprint or a different one? And the question is answered always the same. Is there new information? No. Make the same one. Can you imagine for a moment, in that split second of time, in that quantumness that is there when the cell is splitting, if the answer was, wait a minute, there's some new information. I want your telomeres to lengthen. Change the blueprint, stem cell, do it. And you produce something which is pristine. And the human being starts to not age and lives a very long time. Perhaps it improves the immune system. I am giving you information that I promise you medical science is going to give you within 2 decades. And I'm giving it to you now. There is a system of intelligence in your body that knows more than you do and that is ready to be addressed with human consciousness, and a meld take place. You and innate and the higher self. Creating a body which does not age near as much, where you don't have to worry about the disease, where you can have peace and you have no drama. You become a different human being. And if you're putting this together, that's what the masters of the planet told you you could have. This is no different than what the ancients knew and talked about and gave you. And you're in a new energy where we're starting to tell you these things are upon you in this energy. What are you going to do with them? Well, Kryon, you still haven't told us how. My partner did earlier, if you listened. There is a bridge. There is a bridge, and it's called intuition. Intuition has a foot in both human consciousness and the innate. And sometimes, if you're lucky, even the higher self. For spiritual intuition is just a graduate of human intuition within your own body. Intuition is the bridge with innate. So start using that intuitive power that every single human has. What is your first impression when you ask a question? Don't discount it. Start asking your body a lot about things. Don't discount it when it doesn't make sense. You go into meditative state. Maybe we should change the word. Maybe it shouldn't be meditation. That would indicate that you go into another realm where you're relaxed, where you're going to breathe hard, where you're going to let things happen. What if instead you go into a concentrated state of intuitive inquiry? Dear Spirit, dear body, dear innate, I choose to meld with you in whatever form you decide. Dear innate, thank you for being in me and with me and being me and protecting me. Thank you for the field that surrounds me that keeps me safe. Thank you that I am able to hone the intuition and know. Innate can tell you if somebody's lying to you. Innate is what allows you to know this channeling is real. Innate knows. More than human consciousness, innate is in a quantum state. It is the quantum part of the human being. That's what the other dimensions create in you. So superstring theory, they say there are 11. There's more than 27. They'll find that out. What's in the others? innate. And you own it. Information that can be written and rewritten within your DNA that affects the stem cells, that talks directly to the biology and affects you. And that's not all. For here it comes full circle. We have said to you, why don't you consider mining the Akash? That is to say, picking up those things in past lives that you've lived through and you've earned, and here they are, lurking in you, waiting to be used. But because you're 3D, you think they're in the past and they're just something you look at. Never understanding that in a quantum state there is no time. Use them. And you might say, how? And the answer is innate. That part of you, part 3 of the 3 that we're discussing, is ready to look into that Akash and pick the one that you need right now, because innate knows. Don't pretend you know. Human consciousness is limited to 3D. You know what you want, but innate knows what it'll give you to accomplish that which you need. Isn't that beautiful? God in you. A system that's bigger than you thought. Many of these things you're going to see soon. Don't be shocked and surprised if medical science, including that which is what you call quantum biology, starts to prove what I am telling you today. It won't be that long. Another intelligence inside takes care of things too. Human being has its spinal cord severed completely, totally, in a wheelchair. It's funny how that heart keeps beating, and then where are the signals coming from? Old medical science will tell you, well, it's this or that. Well, it isn't the brain. They want to tell you, well, the brain has another way of sending something. It comes through here, and then there's muscles here, and then no, it isn't. How come those with a severed spinal cord can still have reproductive activity? Where's that coming from? That's supposed to be total brain. And the answer, my dear friends, is innate. Because it's connected and always was. Always has been. You're starting to get a picture.